This is Suspenders Unbuttoned, a podcast where friends talk with friends about TV, movies, and books. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Suspenders Unbuttoned podcast. We are excited to have director Andrew Cymek here with us today. And I'm Julie.
And I'm Sarah. Welcome. Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited for this movie. We were not expecting a Christmas in July movie, so we're psyched for my grown-up Christmas list.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here to talk about it. I was as surprised as you are about the timing of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Glad it's getting aired. Personally, I feel like it's probably a movie better suited to be airing during Christmas.
Yeah.
Because of the emotional resonance behind it.
Right.
But I'm excited that it's going to get out there and that we can talk about it, and hopefully it'll re-air a bunch in Christmas, so
Right.
you can, maybe revisit it then, and maybe pick up some other things that you missed when you're kind of experiencing it in July. So.
Absolutely.
Right. I didn't think about the way that you watch the movie in July is probably very different than you would watch a Christmas movie at Christmas time.
Well, you're actually, I feel like you're feeling different.
Yes, exactly. There's
Right.
just a whole nother, like, the whole environment feels different, and it's got a different charge to it.
Yeah.
Kayla really shared that this is a very different than the formula we often see for these movies, and brings maybe a little more emotional depth to it. And I'm very intrigued by that and very interested in seeing how that plays out.
The thing is that when I was brought on board this project, I wasn't really, a lot of times you're I don't want to say handcuffed, but creatively, you are put into a certain box, right? And
Right.
you play within a certain set of rules. There's a genre to these movies, and you play within the rules of that genre. And with this movie, when I was brought on board, I wasn't really given any restrictions.
Okay.
In terms of what we could do with it, aside from the usual restrictions, which are budget.
Right.
You have to shoot it in 14 days.
Right.
This kind of thing. And when I found out that Kevin was going to be in the movie, I've worked with Kevin quite a bit in the past. Yeah. I got very excited and really wanted to do something special with it. And a lot of what draws me to these movies and making them special is making the audience feel maybe certain emotions that you're not used to feeling when you're watching these kind of movies.
Okay.
Taking them on an emotional journey. And in my personal life, Christmas, as you get older, I mean, I don't know if it's something that you feel, but for me, I started to feel like an outsider looking in on Christmas a lot, right? Because as you get older, you lose. You lose people, you lose time, and then you're like, Christmas, it has all the lights, it has all the decorations, but there's something missing, and you're almost like a voyeur of Christmas as opposed to feeling Christmas. And I think that a lot of people do feel that way, and I want to kind of explore those that kind of Christmas where and Kayla's character Taylor, I mean, she's the embodiment of that. Like, she has to go through that and kind of deal with a more genuine real emotional journey of experiencing Christmas again when you don't necessarily you can't feel it the same way as you did before. So it's definitely a journey, this one, and it was a blast to work with Kevin and Kayla and really all the actors in trying to get across this, like, again, a truthfulness to the holiday.
Right.
So
I love that. How did you get involved in this project?
So usually I have a company called Good Soldier Films with my wife, and we
Okay.
do a number of these, rom-coms. We also do horror movies. We do action movies. We do comedies.
Right.
We have carved out a niche for ourselves where we just enjoy making movies, and
Yep.
we do usually 2-3 a year, like max.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I was called up by Fireside Pictures in Ottawa to come and direct a Christmas movie.
Mhm.
And we had already done our movies, and it was like, yeah, you know what, I was kind of talking with my wife about it. I was like, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, sure, go meet new people.
Right.
Go meet new friends, right? Like, you have
Right.
your team, let's see how they do it
Right.
over there.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, sure, let's go out. And so I went, met the team there. Andrew Sierra and Hayden Baptiste, they were the producers on it.
Okay.
They welcomed me with open arms. Josie, the office manager, really helped out, just acclimatizing to a different team. And they basically gave me the script for grown-up Christmas list. And they plopped it down on the desk, and I read it, and I was like, it's unshootable.
Really?
It's too big.
Wow.
It's
Too big to do in.
Well, I mean, look,
13
you
days.
have restrictions, right? You have to shoot this in 14 days.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And I'm not going to, I don't want to set ourselves up to fail with
Right.
such a big scoped movie
Right.
where I know the budget's just not going to be able to.
This is one of my questions. I was curious how you were able to do such in a movie that what we're hearing is so emotionally complex, and it spans over such a long period of time, and how you were able to.
Well, I mean, it's difficult so that was one of the things that I liked about the script, right? So you have this journey of all these characters. Now, we're limited in budget, so
Right.
we're not going to necessarily be able to change hairstyles and like looks and all this
Right.
stuff, right? Because it's just you're shooting many scenes that happen in locations, so you're switching years in locations as opposed,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
there are limitations there. So you have to. Initially, the original script had them meeting in college. There was like much younger, and I was like, we can't. We have to change the story. So
Right.
basically, we looked at it, and we got to the heart of what the script was, and then we got to what I wanted to put into it, which was kind of the more reflexive.
Okay.
And then we basically, I outlined a 6-page treatment based on the script, and then Sean Riopel, which works with Fireside quite a bit, who is their like writer. So we took what Briar Freed had written, and then the 6-page treatment, and Sean Riopel was tasked to write the version that I wanted to shoot, and we were shooting this in 3 weeks.
Wow. So
So-
when you say treatment, do you mean like an outline? What is
Yeah,
that?
it was like the way I would write my treatment is, this is this. So this scene is gone. This scene is gone. This scene's repurposed here.
Okay.
This is the scene. This is what I need to happen here. If there's specific lines that I have in my head that I want him to implement into it, that I feel are summaries of what the scene is, we'll do that. And so we're 3 weeks away, pretty much. This is what I'm doing. We don't have necessarily a script, but 3 weeks of prep is where the wardrobe's supposed to be happening.
Okay.
All of the talks, the locations are being chosen, and we don't really have the skeleton yet. And I'm just hopeful that Sean is going to abide by my treatment, because that's kind of what I'm thinking is going to, what we're going to be using as the guide, right? And I remember Annalisa, she did such a great job on the wardrobe. So I'm having all the preliminary conversations with the team there.
Right.
And, so she's like, I want to see the script. I'm like, Annalisa, we don't have the script.
Oh,
And
and we've talked to you know, some wardrobers, and that's important for them
Huge.
to have.
it's essential, right?
Yeah,
So
Huge.
I
I
find
would
it fascinating, by the
I
way.
would always so I always say, so my initial talks were, look, okay, so this is what I want for the look. And these are, I basically, you know, Pinterest. I'm sure you know Pinterest. So I have a Pinterest lookbook. So I'll take all the looks that I like,
Mhm.
and then I'll send them to Annalisa, and we'll talk about the progression of the years. But she, you know, she was like, I need the script, and I was like, I'm going to send you the version of the script, but please do not break it down because
Yeah.
it's going to be different.
It's
Well,
gonna-
she broke it down. And,
Of course
and-
she did, because
yeah,
she's a
of
detail
course,
person.
right? And I was like, you know, but you know, so she did such a great job with the flowing dresses and like the look for Kayla, and then with Kevin, I said I want him to be a tank. That's what I want. I was like,
Yeah.
he's a big presence, and I want the wardrobe to make him look even bigger.
bigger.
So
Okay.
yeah, and she delivered all of that. And then with location scouting, we had all of these elements that I knew we were going to need. So we location scouted all this, and then I think it was a week before shooting. Sean got us the script. He was working around the clock.
Huh.
And I got his version, and I was ecstatic with what he did. I did a quick like my pass on it,
Yeah.
and then we were ready to go into production. And then I think I found out that Kevin and Kayla were going to be involved like during the rewrite, so I was excited about
Okay.
that. And that was also it was funny because they were like, "Oh, do you know Kevin?" And I was like, "Yeah,
You've done 3 movies with him.
I've worked with him a couple times."
3.
And they had said, "Yeah, he was unsure whether he was going to come on board, but he asked who was directing." And then there was silence. I was like, "Well, what did he say?" You know? So he's like, "Oh no, he's coming to do it." I'm like, "Okay, great,
Okay.
fantastic."
No way. No way.
Yeah. That's what I was expecting, right?
Pass.
So
Not Andrew.
yeah, exactly. So I got excited because I was like, it's kind of like you, as an artist, I find you have to try to be introspective and of your work, right?
Mhm.
And I've been very lucky to work with Kevin.
Right.
And when I found out that I was going to work with Kevin, I you know, a thought had crossed my mind that I had never thought before. It was like, this could be the last time I work with him.
Oh, okay.
It's just the
Yeah.
fact of the matter, right? Like
Yeah.
people are, you know, different career paths and
Right.
timing and
And you
so
don't
much.
know if that's going to happen again. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is fantastic. So my goal was to make the most romantic movie that Kevin and Kayla have ever been in. And so it was like this classic romantic movie that I would try to do. And everything would try to lead toward that.
Okay.
So
And yeah, go ahead.
having them be a real life couple, did that make that easier or harder?
Well, I mean, they're both very talented actors.
Yes.
And they're very different actors.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wouldn't say it was hard because they're great actors, right? So again, it's sometimes you can have people that have zero chemistry in real life and
Mhm.
dislike each other, and because they're great actors, they still
Right.
you know portray that.
Absolutely.
It was let's say easier for me going into a new environment with a different team that I'm not used to working with, having Kevin.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary, you know, because I've worked with him so many times,
Mhm.
right? So the fact that Kevin and Kayla had this relationship, you know, they can fall into certain common, you know, actions among each other. I wouldn't necessarily know that. I'm looking at them through the lens of Luke and Taylor,
Right.
and like how is Taylor going to react to Luke in this situation? Like, is she
Mhm.
going to laugh at all his jokes? Is, this kind of thing, like how is he going to be able to break down some of her walls? Like, that's how I'm looking at it. I'm not
Okay.
necessarily looking at it as Kevin and Kayla.
Right.
Perfect.
So they're great actors. So they're going to be, the characters. So.
Yeah, Kayla said like it was harder for her to be like, I don't know you. Got a little easier.
Yeah.
But no, that makes sense to us to hear that process. I mean, you do your job first. You can. I work with people who often work with their spouses, and so to see them do their job, I see it every day differently than when they are at home, and so
Mhm.
it's fun to hear that that's the same in that world too. So.
Well, the great thing about Kevin and Kayla too, though, is like, so, the script was written, we get the script. It's very, and one of the key things I said to them was, I want this to feel real. So
Mhm.
if you have any suggestions, please, like, come to me and let's implement it. And both Kevin and Kayla both came to me on numerous occasions. We're like, look, I think that we should do this and this. And especially, Kayla with the writing and the rhyming, she had come up with some really great stuff. And I was like, look, this is fantastic. And I think even the line that you saw in one of the promos where Kevin says the line, well, it could be, right? I'm not sure if that was written in the script or if I wanted to cut it out of the script or he suggested it. And I was like, wow, that could come across really cocky, like, almost like, and I was like, you know what, Kevin, let's try it.
Right.
And, we're in the take and he goes, well, it could be. And I was like, yeah,
yep, that's Dan.
that's good.
It was like it was about the date. It came out in the latest clip, and that they were going to go out, and Kayla says to her grandpa, played by James Jenkins,
Yeah.
right? Jenkinson,
Yeah.
that well, it's not a date, and then he says, well, it could be. So it was like the nice balance of, I want it to be, but
well,
whatever.
and that's the great thing with Kevin's, like it's a lot of actors, that same line can be, delivered in a way that does appear,
A little creepy.
yeah, but it's just like there's this genuineness and like it's like this earnestness, right?
Right.
And it's just yeah, it was a great, great call. But that's the thing, is trying, like, we were working on pages of the script, like I was watching some of Kayla's podcast with you guys earlier, where where she was saying, she would get pages, the day before, and it was like, well, as you kind of see the script, as we're shooting the pages and what's needed for scenes later, I would go in and be like, okay, this scene needs this and that kind of thing. And, they're very gracious with my changes. And, sometimes, they'd be like, are you sure? And I was like, well, let's just try it and that kind of thing. So.
I don't know if I realized how much control a director would have over the script. It makes so much sense to me. I mean, not control, maybe that's not the right word, but you're the one kind of putting this in vision together. So being able to say, like, I think it needs to be worked differently in the script.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's not actually the case, right? That's also why I wasn't sure what to expect when I was coming into Ottawa on this project. Okay. And a lot of times, even when my wife and I, my wife does a lot of the writing. So we work together on getting the scripts to where we want them. But if a company hires us specifically with a script to do that project, that script is pretty much staying the way it is.
Okay.
So because this was an oddity in some ways, where I could put a little more, I don't want to say art, because I try to put as much like art into all of the projects, but it's a little more, like I said, introspective of Christmas, right? So I think that was odd about that. And then we were trying to my DP William Smith on this. He did a great job on this. He's a young director of photography out of Ottawa, and what we kept trying to do was hit above our weight class. And I don't know if you understand that, where it was like,
absolutely,
it's just we're trying to connect on maybe a different level, and it's okay to try. And you guys will be the ultimate judges on whether we succeeded. But like I said, it wasn't, some people do, they get hired onto a movie and they need the money, so they want to do the job. And at this point, like I said, this was an afterthought for me. This was a bonus for doing this project. I was excited to meet new people and work with Kevin and Kayla again. And like I said, it's like my goal on it was to just make for them this romantic movie and this this great experience. So different motivating factors, and just wanted it to be an honest portrayal. But when you talk about directing control, I'm like, I don't have final say, right? There's there were scenes reshot that I don't necessarily agree with the reshoot, but that's part of the business, right? Like you get different opinions, and that's always the thing, is like you have all these people who are really trying their best to make the best possible product for people, and then you get different ideas of what that is, and that's that's just how it goes.
I do love what you talked about, coming into a new situation and still being able to find a team to collaborate with, and being able to everyone do what's best for that final outcome. I think so many people work in a collaborative environment and can see that can make the final product, no matter where they're at, better. So it is interesting to hear that you got to walk into that and bring that piece there.
Oh, absolutely. And like the art department there, I mean, they were great. Joey Gunn was the production designer. We had Christina and Natalie and Thomas as my art team, and they were just everything that I could ask for. Even like I always laugh because at the beginning of every production, I always tell hair and makeup that I'm like, well, this is your show. It's these are so it was with Natasha and Chancel, like the hair and makeup team, they were just fantastic. And like I said, like all of the conversations that I had ahead of time with them, where I was like, the specific hairstyles, my Pinterest, like how I wanted it was just, they just delivered, and I felt very supported in all of that way, which was actually a really appreciative for me, like I said, coming into that environment and really knowing nobody except the actors on set. So
I feel like this might be a good, sorry Julie, go ahead.
No, I was just
mine is not really like a super important thing, so please
go with it. Were you going to say something about the hair?
I was totally going to say about the hair. We've been getting a lot of comments because clearly this is a military film, and Kevin's hair is much longer than normal, and we like to joke about you don't touch with the McGarry hair, but was that intentional?
I can't actually recall. There is a reason for the longer hair.
Okay.
Even though he's in the military.
Okay.
It's partly due to where he's deployed and that kind of thing. So
it'll make sense when we.
But it might have been one of those things too, where Kevin just didn't want to cut his hair. I mean, sometimes
What?
Yeah, I don't blame him. Like if I had hair like Kevin's, I wouldn't want to cut it either. So, but it does make sense as well in terms of the storyline. I just can't recall if it was a thing.
My nephew just came back from being deployed for a year, and he looked at the picture and he goes, "The hair."
Yeah.
That's all he said. I'm like, he's missing patches off his. I see him all the time in his uniform. He's like 6'3" and tall and lean too. So I, you know, like really had a vision easily of what that was uniform was going to look like. But now that you've said you wanted him to look like a tank, it's interesting because I'm like, Chris is built a lot like Kevin, but his uniform fits him like a glove, and Kevin's doesn't. Now I know a little bit maybe more why.
Yeah, I mean, like, because for me, like I said, I've worked with Kevin before on a number of these, Christmas movies. A lot of times you get the tight fitting, like the jackets that are just a little, tailored in a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I was like I said, on this one, because I kind of had a little more free reign on what I wanted, I was like, I just want that to be a presence. I want, I mean, like I said, Annalisa did a great job dressing him, and it was, I think it works.
Yeah, because those guys' combat uniforms are like tailored to them. Even in the regular army, he was deployed. I have active pictures. Fits him like fits tight. And so he was like, he's like, his coat's too big, but now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Trying to bulk up Kevin.
Would you be able to talk a little bit about? We know that there must be like regulations in using a uniform for the military. And can you maybe speak on that a little bit?
Well, that's one of the. So I've done Country Crush, and
Everyone is quite aware of anything with Kevin, and I'm just going to say that.
Yeah. So I usually have a military, someone with military background on set to basically say, this is how this would be. This is how this would be. So basically anything that stood out to them, they would flag and say, Andrew, do this, do this. Yeah. So I pretty much trusted them a lot because it does change too, like what this, because he's, once you see the character and where his deployment is stationed, you'll kind of get it. It's actually what our military advisor had suggested, was that it actually felt a lot cleaner, if there's a way of saying it, where it was like because of the it would have been just messy. Everything would have been a little more not so refined.
Okay.
And I was like, well, it's a movie. You have to try and make it look like a military thing, or it's like, it's not necessarily that FOB wouldn't necessarily be like that. So you also kind of have to juggle the expectations of the audience, right? So the audiences are going to expect it to look a certain way.
Right.
So, sometimes it's like realism is one thing, but also you kind of have to play in the world of, we are still in fiction and we're trying to tell the story and not draw people out of it. Right. But a lot of like the things like the salute and all that, we try to get that correct. So that, those specific things.
Those military families notice.
Look, I mean, you try your best to you do your best to portray it in a way where they say that is correct. But I'm not an expert in it, so I rely on my advisors, and I'm sure that some some people's experiences are different depending, right? So it's just you just kind of do your best and try to treat it with the respect it deserves. And then know that if it's coming from a place of respect, then you did your best.
Right. And you're bringing a story and a feeling, and so can you bring that emotion that goes with that? Yeah, absolutely. That is a great way to put it. We appreciate that as viewers when you bring that through. I mean, we see that. So yeah, and we see when it's not attended to also.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very true.
Right.
So since we're talking about the military, we know that plays a large role in this film. Is that something, did you already kind of answer this? Is it something you enjoy, and like, does it have a personal impact on you?
Yeah, I think just because my backstory being like my grandparents kind of ingrained in me this my grandma, who's 95 now, still who was 13 years old during World War II,
Yeah.
and had experienced that. It kind of, being a Polish Canadian, they always kind of ingrained in me this value, right?
Right.
And it's one of those things where the sacrifice that military make to be away from family is not one that's talked enough about.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the simple thing of absence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't seem like much, but
It's huge.
if you are empathetic to that and kind of put that into any of your thought process, I mean, and again, it's like my brother's a firefighter. Now,
Mm-hmm.
he moved to Calgary. I'm in Ontario, so he's in Alberta. It's a couple provinces down.
Yeah.
And that was probably 10 years ago. And we feel like, we still see each other. Maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. We try, but the absence that you feel is there, and it changes your life, right?
Yeah.
Like, it changes holidays, it changes birthdays. And to do that selflessly, like in the, the military, or for a, whether it's a patriotic reason, whether it's a moral reason, whatever your decision is to do it, it's a difficult thing, not just for, the soldiers, but especially for the families, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I have a lot of empathy towards that. I feel like that's something that, as I get older as well, that I try to put into my movies, right? And just trying to understand, or at least try to share an empathetic view of that with the audience, right? Because I think that's one of the things that is key for me in this movie is this. I want you to feel like, if you haven't felt what it's like to be despondent to Christmas, I kind of want you to kind of go on the ride of, oh, that's what it feels like.
Okay.
And I mean, and it's really Kayla's story, right? So Kayla's kind of, we're watching the movie with Kayla, and then Kevin kind of comes in as this force, and it's this, can Kayla be happy again? Well, yeah, but there's these conditions with Kevin.
Right.
So I mean, it's a little, like I say, it's not easy. It's not an easy journey, but I really do think Kayla hits it out of the park. I think she's great, and I'm curious to what you guys think. I'd love to talk to you guys again after.
Yeah, we would love that. And I'm really excited because we've said for a long time that we really think Kayla is a really strong actor, and I'm excited that it sounds like this role is really going to showcase that for her.
I think so. I really do. I had no real, before working with Kayla on this, I had no prep except for my mom saying that Fiona was her favorite.
Okay, so I like your mom.
I was like, yeah, okay. My mom thinks, and so I was like, okay, that's great. But Kayla is just a very conscientious actor. She comes in there, she's very present, and also she looks at the script and she challenges it. And she, I think that's a key thing for an actor, is you challenge this, and you challenge me, right? You say, does this make sense? Is this the best way of doing it?
Right.
And then when you have that working relationship, and that's how I always look at these projects, is that it's a working relationship. Don't apologize for questions. Don't apologize for, getting lines wrong. We're working towards an end product. And I really think that her emotional journey that we see is I hope you guys appreciate what we've done.
Yeah,
And like
I
said,
think
I'm
we very
curious to
much
see.
will. This is very much
I'm very
this is
hopeful.
something
Yeah.
very much
Yeah.
our game here. We like the push pull in a relationship
Mhm.
too, and sometimes the stories get too flat if they lose that push pull.
Mhm.
And when you're watching as a viewer, and you need to have those things involved. Also, like losing your connection with Christmas or Kayla's journey through it. It's something I see. I work in a hospital setting, and I see families struggle with the holidays all the time.
Mm.
That's something a lot of people can relate to, actually. How do they make it through those things? This movie sounds actually incredibly relatable, and I think people love that there is this path to their relationship from what we've heard so
Mm.
far. I'm very excited to see this play out. I do see where you thought this might have been better at Christmas. Yeah.
Oh no, it's definitely like
Mm.
when I saw the ads, I was like, the Camp Christmas, like in terms of like
Yeah.
the other
Yep.
movies, I was like, oh,
Are
those
like,
fit, those
yeah.
very much fit with Christmas in July, and I
Yep.
um, uh, but
But
I
Kayla and
felt
Kevin
like,
are a force right now, so I see why they put it there.
well, I know why they advertised it. We all know why they advertised it
Yes, we all
when
know
they
why. We're not
did.
done.
So, it's I'm glad that it's going to get out there and be seen. But like I said, like in terms of the emotional impact of it, it might be something that is felt a little greater during Christmas than during like you're outside in the heat with your marshmallows by a campfire. Like it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I still think it's going to do well. I think especially the +3 numbers will be high. That's my prediction.
I hope so. I said it's like, let's break some records. Like
Yeah.
let's
I mean,
go.
we're down for that. So we're
all in.
We're all in. I mean, obviously it's a holiday week here in the States, so I'm kind of hoping everybody's like coming home,
but it's airing Saturday night.
It will get turned on. Yeah. So we're excited.
Yeah.
We're always excited for.
Yeah, we're always
not
excited
just
for
because we on the side run the fan group for Kevin, but because we like good stories.
Mm-hmm.
And this just sounds like a good story. It just keeps sounding better and better the more we learn about it. Yeah.
Good stories that are we love a good arc to a storyline, and those that don't have them tend not to keep our attention.
Yeah.
So this is sounding more and more like something that could become one of the classics. Actually, the more you talk about it, the more I'm like, this is going to get shown over years.
I hope so. I think we lucked out on a couple of things. Like I said, shooting at Christmas, we were able to really capture the Christmas feel throughout.
Right.
And I think I was able to, through the manner of the shots, portray the emotion that I was trying to go for. So, like I said, hopefully you'll take the journey with Kayla's character. It's a very genuine performance, which is fun to see.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me either, because I think Kayla comes across as a very genuine person to begin with. I think you touched on this, but because you filmed it during the Christmas season, do you think that helped, not just for the look of the movie and stuff, but do you think like maybe you all felt Christmassy and you felt the season more and it like helped you to get into it? Or is that something that, because you're all professionals, if it was July and you were filming, you would have been able to show the same?
Well, so if you're shooting in July, you have an issue with bugs. You have an issue with heat.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel Christmassy. You shoot in December, it's very cold.
Right.
And it's beautiful. The snow is beautiful. But there's ice all over the ground. So everything is a hazard. So there's a balance.
Right.
I would say that we got some very beautiful shots that we wouldn't otherwise been able to get. Certain wider shots there are scenes that happen during, snowstorms, like, where it's actual snow falling.
Yeah, Kayla said you're down at the whatever somewhere and it was snowing for real, and just
and it's beautiful, right? Like, I mean, you can't really replicate it at this, at this scope of movie, right? Again, we're shooting 14 days.
I know.
Right.
So it's
Crazy
it's very quick. It's very quick. The cold, I mean, again, you're working. I never heard Kevin and Kayla or any of the cast complain about the cold to me. I tried my best to keep them as warm as possible. You come in, you do your take, go and get warm. But that part of the movie, it was difficult. Like days where it's just cold because everyone just wants to be warm.
Yeah.
Right.
But I don't think that relays itself to what we captured. Right? So I think that I love shooting Christmas movies during Christmas.
Yeah.
What I didn't like was I wrapped that project, I think it was on the 21st.
Oof.
So it was like, okay, well, I'm a big, I love Christmas time.
Yeah.
But for me, it's the prep time of Christmas.
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was pretty much gone that year.
Yeah.
So it's like you are exhausted, you come home and it's just like, oh, it's Christmas. And it's like all of a sudden you don't really feel like it's Christmas.
Right.
It's just
I can understand that.
You didn't do any of the things.
Because for me, like I could put Christmas away on the 26th or the 27th, but it's like that whole month leading up to it, and that's the special time.
That's exactly right. And like I like to listen to, you have Christmas music in the house.
Yeah.
It's just like you have people over, and I was in Ottawa shooting, so it was a very quiet time, and then it was just come home, celebrate Christmas, and then it's over.
Right.
And then you're already prepping your next movie for February, right? So that was, I would say, the negative of it, but there is a positive of just being able to capture Christmas on camera in those wide shots, which is just nice.
Kayla said she felt like you were able to shoot for forever because it just kept looking like Christmas, right?
Yeah, there's a couple shots, like I'd love to show you like my favorite shots, but once you watch it, then you'll see it's like, okay, that was pretty.
We'll bring you back on, and then you can really
we can share too. Like we can share on the screen. Catherine is asking, she's curious about your journey about becoming a director. Was it something you always wanted to be, and how did you get here?
I wanted to be a hockey player.
Yeah.
Wasn't good enough.
Are you Canadian through and through? So it doesn't. It's
figured out in high school that I wasn't going to make the NHL. So I guess I was kind of one of those athlete artists.
Yeah.
Really I know a lot of them.
Really liked storytelling.
Yeah.
Really liked movies. Had some really great friends who we would have great times shooting movies together. I went to York University, studied filmmaking and screenwriting. I taught at the Toronto Film School for 3 years, applied storytelling techniques. And basically when my wife and I got together, she kind of came on board as my producer. We were both also actors at the time, and we were like, well, let's make movies together. And she was like, I'm going to produce your movies. And I give her like the credit for my career, because I'm depending on some people say I'm hard to work with when it comes to I don't play well with others, because it's kind of like I'm a very particular person.
Okay.
So I kind of and if I have I'm very particular with ideas, so I sometimes it's, my wife says you can be a bit much, but she kind of she's the one who has directed our career.
Okay.
And she was the one who decided for us to do Autumn Stables, and
I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
And go into that direction as well. And that's a whole other venue of movie making because we were pretty much in genre pictures.
Mm.
Yeah, and it was just like, as long as for me, I just love the manner of storytelling that filmmaking brings, and the camaraderie, and I guess my journey over the years was one of looking at filmmaking and films a specific way, and then looking at the actual journey of filmmaking different. And now we're at this stage where each project is special in terms of the experience of the project,
Okay.
as opposed to just the finished product.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
journey, because
Right.
there's so many factors that you can't control. Like
Mm-hmm.
you try your best, and some people say, "Oh, did magic happen?"
No, it doesn't.
Well, it's no. Sometimes it does, but you're
Well-
not in control of the magic.
Right.
That's
Okay.
that's the thing, right? Like, you kind of do your best and you put it out there, and and sometimes the stars align and things work out great, and sometimes you can try your hardest and it just sometimes it doesn't work, and you never know which it's going to be,
Yeah.
whether you're going to find an audience, whether that specific story is going to resonate with people.
Mhm.
You can only do your best every day, and while you're on set, enjoy that specific experience.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I look at things now. And in a roundabout way, I think that has benefited me as a director, just in terms of being able to exist in my own skin.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So you're talking about being nitpicky. I see that as attention to detail. And one of our question is, so is there something in movies that you've made that we should look for that is your mark? Like, is there something that makes it look like Andrew Cymek's movie?
Well, there's certain lines and certain, like, I guess it's like I'm a product of the 80s. So
Yeah.
80s movies.
Yes.
I love.
Me
so-
too.
So there's a certain, maybe it's a level of, I don't want to say corniness, but like, there's a certain heart to it that
Okay.
I think,
Breakfast
I tried-
Club.
yeah, like I try to instill a little bit of that in all of my projects. But I also, I love movies, right? So there was a
Right.
reason, when I started out and I was very much in the horror comedy genre,
Mhm.
I had success doing that. So,
Right.
for 7 years of my directing career, I kind of stayed in that wheelhouse.
Yep.
And, then I did Country Crush, which is a musical, and everyone would be like, well, why are you doing a musical? I was like, but I love movies. Like, Singing in the Rain is one of my favorite movies of all
Right.
time. Just,
Yeah.
you kind of, you get boxed in to say, like, oh, you're this person, and
You do this work. Yeah.
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 And Country Crush was something that my wife and I, like, on a trip up north, we were just like, what do you want to do next? And it was like, well, let's do something that we haven't done before, and that was Country Crush. And
So you guys just decided to do a musical.
yeah, I mean, that's why I've been blessed. Like, most of the projects that my wife and I have done is us on a drive, and we'll just be talking and what we enjoy and what we want to do. And we just said, why don't we do a country musical? And she had a relationship with some songwriters, and we had their songs, and I played all their songs during the trip, and the the mind sort of starts working. It's like, this song could be repurposed here, and we can use this, and if we twist something here, and we kind of come up with an arc. And we also established, it's like, okay, so what is country music in terms of, like, well, it's partying, it's also very patriotic, it's also heartbreaking. Like, you kind of, what is country music at its core? And then you basically try to align those things of country music into a script. and then you put that into a script and try to get that all across. And during that time, as an artist, I was also dealing with this idea of cycles and cycles of grief.
Okay.
And how do you, this concept of grief where it was like, you can, if you're stuck in grief, it just perpetuates itself and you're just stuck in a cycle of more grief. And I was actually making 2 movies at the time. I was making Night Cries and Country Crush at the same time in terms of my creative process of writing scripts. And they're both dealing with a similar idea of how can you be happy when so much grief continues to be forced upon you. And that is, the promise of life, right? It's that tragedy and then happiness and then tragedy and happiness. And it's like, how do you go about that? And how do you, if you get stuck in that cycle of grief, how can you ever climb yourself and climb out? So it was, those 2 projects were around that time. So that's how you tackle a project, is what do you want the themes to be? And then how do you implement that into a project like that? So, yeah.
I like that. I like learning that that's how your process. Yeah. I think it's interesting.
So you said your wife wanted to do Autumn Stables. I will tell you that is, as a group, probably one of the group's favorite movie that Kevin has ever done.
So you're talking about magic?
Yeah.
That was magic.
That was magic, man.
That project was magic.
And that project has grief running through it also. The way you handled love after loss in that one, the way it's handled in the script and it's directed, that's, I think, why it's got magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Autumn Stables, to Cindy Busby.
Mm-hmm.
So
she was beautiful.
She was fantastic. And so remember, a lot of, I'm living in a genre that is, comedy horror or like thriller based.
Yeah.
That's my wheelhouse.
And this is like the complete opposite.
And when we brought Cindy on board, and I was like, look, she, as an actor of these projects, she has more experience in this genre than I do.
Yeah.
Right.
So as a director, I kind of let Cindy do her thing. And I will be the first. I watched her and learned from Cindy on how she does it, like what is expected of her as an actor in this. As a director, like, I'm making sure her performance is consistent.
Yeah.
But I learned so much from Cindy on that project. Like, and I took what I learned and implemented into other projects, because it's like, okay, it's a different genre. It's a different style. And I mean, we had a great location, right? I mean, Iron Horse Ranch, which, just recently sold to new buyers, so to new owners. Fantastic set. We were dealing with Harmony Horsemanship at the time as well. And Lindsay, and she raised all her horses bitless. So it was just a great experience. And it was just, I mean, it was magic. There were nights there where the sunset was perfect, and it was, it was great. And then Kevin was there too. So
and the 2 of them have horse riding skills. They both came out of Heartland at the time. And so just, I mean, people love it, and I think it's really the storyline and how well it was done. The love after loss was done so beautifully and truer. Like, so it must be that piece that Cindy brought, a bit truer to that, like where you sit when somebody comes in unexpectedly. Something.
There's a little bit of reservation, right? And you're trying, and I think that's the key too. Is like you're trying. I mean, not every project allows you to delve into this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like they just don't. It's not in this. It's not in the source material, and if it is, it's just kind of glossed over very quickly. But a project like Autumn Stables, where you're dealing with, okay, well, you not just have this built up life with Cindy and her, the entire stables that was built up with her husband. right?
Mhm.
And
Right.
now she can't do it by herself. And it's like, well, but there's also the reality of bringing a new person into that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, you can't just relegate that person to being second wheel if you're going to truly
Yeah.
commit to this new relationship. Like these are all,
Yeah.
it's messy, right? Like
Yeah.
life,
Mhm.
it's messy, right? So you
Life is
try
messy.
to, yeah, you try to do your best to, again, I use the word respect the
Mm.
journey,
Right.
right? And
Mhm.
make it feel as real as you can, right? And Autumn Stables was in many ways a very, like, that was one where it was magic.
It was
And
magic.
I look back at that, and I mean, that gazebo, I bought that
Mhm.
gazebo
Did
in,
you?
yeah, in London, Ontario, and because it had all of the moss already grown on it,
Yeah.
and it was all aged, and we disassembled it, we brought it to that location, and we put it up there, and it was just
With all the moss still on it.
with all the
Perfect.
moss still on
Okay.
it. And then
Perfect.
I mean, one of my favorite memories is, like, we had wrapped everyone, but we had to do the repaint, and my wife and I were just repainting it, and it was like a beautiful sunset, and no one saw it, but it was just, me and Brigitte, and we were just painting away and
Yeah.
painting the gazebo. It was just like, it was just an amazing experience. That whole project was fantastic. So
Lots of people asking, is there a potential ever for a sequel to that one?
I would I would love for there to be, but
Uh-huh.
so many, and this is, again, it's like, you always want to just say, yeah, there's
Yeah.
always the potential, right? But part of, what I said earlier, where it was like, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to work with Kevin again. I
Right.
want to, but, like,
Right.
you just never know. And then you have so many, so the place is under new ownership,
Oh,
Yep.
right. Too
so
many
it's like,
moving pieces.
so there's so many moving pieces to life, and you're just, and timing, and, like,
Yeah.
everyone's doing their own thing. Look, would I love to do another one on Sables? Absolutely.
Right.
But also part of me is afraid, because there's a reason why they're saying you can't go home again exists,
Right.
right? Like, there was
Right.
magic on that set,
Yeah.
and whenever you try to recreate
Mm.
magic, it's not the same.
Mhm.
So, like, I would love the opportunity to tell that, to tell more stories, and, and work with Cindy and Kevin again. But, will it happen? I mean, right now it's not something that is on
Yeah.
the forefront,
Hmm.
but if there was enough demand and enough money behind it so that we could force the pieces together,
Right.
Right. Right.
that's when that happens and goes, okay, well, yeah, that would be,
Right.
that would work. So
I always felt like if there was a sequel, it wouldn't be like the normal sequels you see on Hallmark or any of these other channels. It wouldn't be that love, engagement, marriage sequel. It would be like because they were struggling with the spot that they were in or even have a relationship, that it would probably be something else, like they were married and struggling with something different, like
Mm.
their property or their income or something different like that. It would be a different point of view.
well, there's definitely, like, opportunity there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, for sure.
There's a lot of material to mine, but, like, also, like, as the way I look at it, as a one-off, the way I ended the movie with just Cindy riding off by herself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
We lost him. He can come back.
Yeah,
Well,
it was just
there he is.
there he
one
is.
of
There he's
those.
still there. Okay.
It was just one of those moments that I felt like that was a great great way of ending the movie, and
Yeah.
her journey,
Her
right,
journey.
like, through
Yeah.
it. So
Do you have a favorite type of scene that you like to film, or a least favorite?
Yeah.
no,
Nope.
there's no. Every scene has, you can go into a project going, this scene's going to be great, and it's the hardest scene to just
Yeah.
establish. What I love is working with actors
Mm-hmm.
and trying to find a genuineness
Mm.
to the project and to the scene, and find the scene. And I've worked a number of times with various with actors of various degrees of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the most rewarding to me when the actor looks at me knowing they got it.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, a lot of these movies, like, you do it really quick, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You get a couple takes, and then you piece it together in the editing room, and it works because, you know, it's just, you get enough coverage and it's going to work, and the music is going to do the heavy lifting and that kind of thing. But when an actor knows that they really got it,
Mm-hmm.
that's the most rewarding. And I guess the way I look at it, like I said, is you never know how the movie is going to turn out in the end. But if you show up that day of work and you do your hardest and the best work that you can, and you feel great about that job that you did, you can be proud of that day.
Yeah.
And that's all we're promised, is that day. So,
I mean, that's in life too, right? Just
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like for me, like that's always the best, is trying to find, try to help the actors find the honesty of the scene. And for me, like, no scene is, I hate establishing shots. I hate shooting establishing shots.
Right.
Because generally there's not a lot of that. There's no actors in them. But no, I mean, I love every type of scene. Yeah.
Do you have any like techniques or, you know, things that you found that you use over and over again to help an actor if they're having a hard time finding,
every actor is different.
So you just sort of have to find, as you're working with them, figure it out for each.
Absolutely. Because every actor works a different way, you know, and each actor is also at various degrees of experience. Yeah. So generally, if you have more experience, you're going to come to set a little more, much more confident. Just you've allotted so many hours on set, and then you also, if you haven't allotted the experience, you have to have patience to allow them the time to find the scene sometimes, and that's always the difficult part with these projects, is that excuse me, is that they sometimes don't allot for that.
Right.
The time.
Right. You're so crammed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a dream film or project that you would like to shoot?
No.
Nothing.
No, it's partly of my new mind frame of enjoying the day. I like pretty much any dream project that I want to do, I end up doing. So it's one of those things where the next project that my wife and I want to jump into, we'll just start taking steps.
I love that. I love that. That's your family business, and that you get to do that together. You collaborate, and we as viewers get to benefit from that. That's awesome. I kind of love that your wife wanted to do Autumn Stables. That was I mean, really, people here are like, it's our favorite. We love that. So to add in that your wife was the one that really saw that, I was like, oh, I like this. You to watch you collaborate professionally is probably very rewarding personally. People are very much enjoying this. We would love to have you on again after this is done. I feel like we're going to have a lot more questions. We can hear maybe a little more of the process.
Sure. Yeah, anytime. I can talk for hours.
Okay, us too. So.
Same. I really like this question that Lillian asked in the comments. She wanted to know what really creates the magic.
Well, so a lot of times it's a combination. Wow, man, if you knew what could create the magic and you could replicate it, right?
Well, then it would always be.
Then it would always be magic, right? But a lot of times it's just the timing of certain things. It's like, there's a scene in Grown Up Christmas List where Kayla is just walking down the street, and the whole point is I want you to feel how lonely she is, right? And it's just the snowfall is coming down, and it's just it's the most beautiful snowfall you've seen, but it's also a little bit foggy, so that there's a haze around the lights. I'm using a filter that just blooms the lights a bit on the camera. The wardrobe is perfect. Kayla's acting's perfect. The camera moves through. Like, it's just, sometimes it all just works.
Yeah.
And, it's just, you have an idea in your head that every shot is like that. But then you arrive on set, and sometimes some things aren't, just something's not working, or, that kind of thing. So there's certain things where, I would say that the magic happens a lot when everything that you have in front of the frame is just working.
Yeah.
And that's I think for me the key.
I love that.
So one of the things we like to look for is have something for our followers to look for when they're watching the film. Clearly that scene's going to be it. The scene where Kayla's walking, it's snowing. She also brought up the snow happening naturally. I know exactly what you're talking about when the halo around the lights when it's snowing hard. She's in Rhode Island. I'm in Minnesota. Catherine's in Minnesota. We see those nights. I drive home in them. They're not my favorite. But clearly that's what we're going to be looking for. It's that ceiling. Both of you have brought that up. So
that's the magic scene that we can look for.
Something to look for. I love that. Love that scene.
Andrew, we asked Kayla this question. I don't know if you heard us, but can you give us like 3 words or 3 thoughts about this movie? Like if you had to describe it to us.
3 words is tough to describe it.
3 thoughts.
Melancholy, hope,
Romance.
I would say romance is like the blanket. If there was one, it'd be romance. I'm trying to think of the journey of Kayla's character.
I was just going to say journey actually was probably my thought from talking to
so
you.
I mean, it's definitely like I would think around those lines. I feel like it is a classic romance, right? Like that kind of thing. I'm really excited for you guys to see it. Like,
I'm really excited to watch it.
Yeah. And I love anything with well-written arc to it. So many of us are also readers too, and so we appreciate when we see that type of thing in the movies. You're bringing those techniques to tell the story to it. So I think Journey's a great. You've been telling us a journey the whole time, so I think we all feel it now. So
good. I'm like I said, I'm excited for you to see it. I think Kayla's done some really great work in this, and Kevin is great. Is charismatic as always. And really like the entire supporting cast. Like you guys are talking to Jim tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
And initially he had auditioned for a completely different character.
Okay.
But I just saw him as Grandpa Frank, and I was like, I'm bringing him in for this character, and he's just great in this movie. Susan and Lindsay, who play Kevin's parents, they're great. The supporting cast, Colton Royce as Adam, he's fantastic as Kevin's
we
friend.
need to reach back out to him.
And Corey Lee as Bonnie.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. I've worked with Corey so many times in the past.
Yeah.
Again, it was fun to have the people I've worked with help me out. And they're all of their performance are all very genuine. And I think that it was key for me with especially the parental characters
Yep.
to
Mhm.
get across the because so much of this is through them too.
Okay.
With them.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like Kevin's family is the family he's not there with, right? So
Yeah.
it's important to make sure that their feelings are genuine in this, and how do they help maybe Kayla navigate through this
Right.
when she's she's new to this. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
We're
Right.
excited. Do you have a favorite Christmas movie? Like one you watch every year?
Polar Express,
Oh, Tom Hanks and
but
the
mostly
bell.
because like I love trains and I love the visuals and I love
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
the wolves in the snow. Like it's just
Yes.
there's something about those visuals in that
Are amazing.
yeah, I love.
Especially when it first came out, and that felt so.
Mhm.
It was just amazing to watch it because it
Yeah.
really had
So I
intention.
mean, we watched that, and I mean, White Christmas. A lot of the classics. Like I said, a lot of Christmas for me is like the nostalgia, and I think that's probably why I like Polar Express is like
Yeah.
looking back on it.
Yeah.
I'm not
Plus,
really
classic story.
I'm not really big. Like I'll enjoy them, like the modern Christmas
Yeah.
things, but they don't have the same emotional resonance to me. But that doesn't make them great movies. It's just me personally. That's kind of
No, I totally. I'm the same kind of.
Tell
I'm
them
the
your
same
favorite
way.
Christmas movie.
Oh, Meet Me in St. Louis with Judy Garland.
okay. Well, there you go. Right.
And
So
it's not even a real Christmas movie.
Yeah,
There's a Christmas scene.
Right.
And White Christmas, like those are the movies I have to watch every year because I watched them when I was younger, and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I've got to watch those same movies.
Yeah.
White Christmas is always here.
Yeah.
Always has to happen at this house. We're a little mix of nostalgic and modern, so we love Elf at this house.
Yeah, I mean, look, those movies are always enjoyable, and Elf is actually one of the. I find it's one of the rare modern ones that really gets the emotion right.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, there's certain. I don't know when I became a like a softie, but like specifically like with Elf, it's like when James Caan starts singing.
Oh my gosh!
I just get a clump in my throat, and it's just like it just really it impacts me more emotionally than Elf should.
No. And maybe that's the magic of that movie is you think it's going to be just all comedy because look how it's cast. You're like all set up for comedy, but the feels are there from the beginning to the end. And how is it that you feel that much in the setting of that comedy? Right?
It's great. It's a great movie.
There's, the comedy and the slight quirkiness and the little uncomfortableness because we should sing Baby It's Cold Outside in the bathroom
Yeah.
while she's showering. No, there's this is what brings it to it. But we have loved making movies with you. This has been super fun. I think we'd love to absolutely have you on after the movie airs.
Yeah, that'd be great. And any questions that anyone has about that the making of the movie or what they thought of this specific bit. Like I said, like everything is and maybe for the audience to understand, it's because especially with the McGarrys and the When Calls the Heart drama, so to speak.
So to speak.
Like the creators of the projects are always trying to do their best and trying to work with the characters, but there's so many decision makers, right? And so you're kind of you even in my process, like I said, like the reshot scenes, I disagree with them, right. So the movie that I delivered, I am very comfortable and confident with that movie. Now, I was going to be to reshoot when they asked, because I'm also a friend of the actors and I want to be there for them, even though I
Yeah.
disagree with the
Right.
process.
Right.
Right? I'm here to do the job and want to do it. And I would have been at the reshoot had I not been shooting another movie.
Mhm.
And in fact, I was going to come back, and then the other movie was like, you can't, like, yeah, you can't take, you can't go over the weekend. So I felt bad. But then Samantha Wan came in, and we had great conversations over the reshoot and what to do. And she came in and she did a great job doing the reshoot. Under really, I don't recommend that.
Yeah,
those
Kayla
circumstances
said
to
she was
anybody.
frozen.
Yeah, and I don't recommend that. Just as a director, to come into
Yes.
someone else's project and
Oh,
Right.
given the task to
Right.
reshoot something that
yeah. Nobody.
you know,
It's not anybody's favorite thing. That I'm sure that wouldn't be your favorite thing as a director either.
it wouldn't. But she did a great job, and and I guess the thing is that everyone is kind of curtailed with how to properly go about this creative journey.
Mm.
And that's why we're always talking about, like, you're talking, you can say magic, you can talk about like character decisions, you can talk about whatever, right? But we're trying to make, there's this balance of telling the right story, but also we're people making the projects.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you disagree with something creatively, you may still, you have relationships with people that you have to keep positive,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So it's definitely one of those things where you can only do your best work and then hope it resonates in some way with people, and always take the positives out of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see your full version at some point.
I would love that too. Maybe we do a release the Cymek cut on this.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I'm there for the Cymek cut. We'll post.
But I think you guys are really going to. I really think you're gonna love the movie, and I think the journey with Kayla and Kevin, you'll really appreciate it. And like I said, I'd love to come back on and talk more with you guys about it, and see what you guys actually thought. So
absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah.
We'll make a date.
All right.
Awesome. Well, we're going to end things because we've been talking for so long, but hang in for a second. Catherine will take us out and then we'll say goodbye. So thank you, everybody who's here watching. Thanks for being with us, Andrew. We really enjoyed it.
That was my pleasure.
We both find this fascinating. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.